guys, I just wanted to check in after this crazy weekend and crazy week for Michelle and I last week. Honestly, a lot of you probably don't even know. If you're not a food vendor who was at the Angel Stadium, you probably don't know, but basically we were with the city a lot last week, just getting everything figured out for health permits for our food vendors, just to make sure that our show was a success and ran smoothly for everyone. Basically, this video is just kind of like a lowdown of what we're going to expect from our food vendors from here on out, because to be completely transparent with you guys, Michelle and I weren't entirely educated on what food vendors need, but now we know it like it's the back of our hand, which is great that we were able to sit down with these city officials and really learn what our food vendors need based off of whether you're a bakery or a coffee vendor or Aguas Frescas. This is just a video to help you with that and all the permits that you may need. On top of like your regular cottage food or your health permit with a facility, we're also gonna kind of do like a little rundown of the TFF, which is the temporary food facility form, which is what you will need for every market. That's what you should have for every market and every event in Orange County. They require you to have the temporary food facility permit. It costs you $66 if you're category 1A or category 1B. Excuse me, just for category 1A is $66, and then category 1B and category 2 is $127. And you could either pay the one-time fee, or if you work with a market like us who does the same venue frequently, like a TAPS location, then you could get a reoccurring permit for that specific venue. So if you know that you're going to be popping up with us at every TAPS Yorba Linda market or every TAPS Tustin market, then you could get that reoccurring permit for that venue with Creative Babe, and then you would still file it through the city, and it would be just a little bit more than what you would pay for the one-time use, but that would only make sense if you're planning on popping up with us at TAPS frequently. So I'm gonna put the TFF up on the screen right now and just do a little lowdown for you guys to help you if you need help filling this out. I know a lot of our food vendors had a little bit of trouble with filling it out, and we ran across some issues when we were sitting down with the officials of it being half filled out, or the wrong information being put in, which we completely understand. It's one of those forms where it's like super tedious, lots of information, and it gets confusing. So I wanted to be able to run through it with you guys just so you know how to fill it out and that it's filled out properly, so that there's no chance of you getting denied and losing that application fee, and that you will be good to go for one of our future markets. So that's going to be up on the screen right now. And then basically, so starting at the top, let's see. It's going to say type. So you have the prepackaged food and beverage with packaged samples only, which is a category 1A. So that would be something like a bakery, or anyone that has anything prepackaged. So even at our Angels Market, we had Avatar Coffee decide to pre-bottle all of their coffee. So then they were considered category 1A, which made it a lot easier, because otherwise they would have been a category 2. And then that means it's going to be more expensive for your application. And then you're also required to have screens on your tent. You're required to have a 3-compartment sink. You're required to have a hand sanitizing station, and it's a lot more requirements. So if your business is able to go in that route of doing something pre-bottled, pre-jarred, pre-packaged, we would highly recommend it. It's going to be cheaper on you, and it's going to be a lot easier on you. Second option is a category 1B. Same thing as category 1A, except you're doing open sampling. So then in that instance, you would need a 3-compartment sink, you would need the screens on your tent, so you still do need all those extra things just for your sampling. So then that's where you kind of have to decide if it's worth it to sample your product. Some people get their sales based off of samples, so it might be worth it for you. But if you're something like a bakery where, you know, people know what brownies taste like, I'm sure yours are amazing. I used to be a baker myself, so I know how you feel. But is it worth it to pay more and have to go through all of those requirements to give them a sample? Okay, so you would select your type with that. Oh, and then category 2. Category 2 would be like your standard coffee bar. So people who are going to make an espresso drink right in front of you, a cold brew drink right in front of you. It would be like our Aguas Frescas, who ladle out the drinks out of their little like jugs, their containers. That would all be category 2 because it's open container. And then if you're a food truck who is not based in Orange County and you need a temporary food facility permit, if you're LA based, any other county based, you would have to apply for the OC TFF for an event, and you would also be considered open container. And then with the open container category 2, you do need that sink, three compartment sink, hand sanitizing station, screens on your Easy Up, and then there's also just a more in-depth checklist that I will include at the end of this, just so you could do a self-check yourself to see if that's something that's worth it for you. And then to the right of that is the event frequency, the single event or the reoccurring event, and that's what I just mentioned. So if it's something like the Angel Stadium, where we're probably only going to do that a couple times a year, it would make more sense to do maybe a single event. But then if it's like TAPS and it's somewhere where we're popping up every month and you know you want to be there, you could do a reoccurring event for that. But make sure to run that by us first, just so you don't pay for the reoccurring event and then it's a possibility that you might not have a vendor spot because of the amount of applications that we get. So make sure that you kind of like settle that with us before you get the reoccurring event permit. So the name of the event would be Creative Babe Market. You could even do like the date or like Angel Stadium or TAPS Tustin, whichever event it is. Then you would do the date, the hours of the event, the address of the event, which is all on our flyer. The event organizer name, you could go ahead and put my name, which is Holly Gresto, Gresto, and Michelle Casillas. Casillas is Casillas. And then the event organizer's phone number, 714-869-7229. And that is our Creative Babe number, and that's only for use on this application. If you do have questions about anything, it is best to DM us so that both Michelle and I are in the loop about it, as opposed to calling one of us or texting one of us directly, because we do make joint decisions on everything. So we appreciate you understanding that. And then the event organizer's email would be creativebabemarket@gmail.com. And then the booth name under the TFF info would be your business name. Have you participated in a previous community event in Orange County before? You would just say yes or no. Person in charge would be your name. Person in charge phone number would be your phone number. And then person in charge email would be your email. And then in that next section, the TFF owner, this is all about you. So type of ownership, you would say if you're an individual owner, if it's an LLC, if it's a nonprofit, you would just go ahead and check that off. And then again, you would do your company business name, your phone number, your address. This would be your home address, city, state, zip. If mailing address is different, you would go ahead and fill that in, your driver's license number, and then your email. And then in that next section, this one's very important. So this one we ran into a lot of problems with people filling this out incorrectly, or just kind of like half filling it out and hoping for the best. But the OC health department is at the majority of the events that they are like. So with this event specifically, they told us they would have at least 2 inspectors on site. So if you fill this out incorrectly and just kind of like half do it in hopes that like no one will know, they will be there day of to double check that everything that you wrote is accurate and that you could prove whatever you're saying. So it's very important, very, very, very important, not just for our market, but for any event to fill this out correctly, because you don't want to get in trouble with the health department for filling it out incorrectly. So list all foods and beverages that will be sold at the event. So please, please, please make sure to include everything. Not just, if you're a coffee vendor, not just brewed coffee, not just cold brew. If you're doing espresso drinks, you need to be very clear. Espresso drinks with dairy or non-dairy additives, with syrups. You need to be as descriptive as possible, because it's better to give more details than less and then to get in trouble for it if you don't provide enough. So will the food or beverages be stored before the event? It's either yes or no. If it's yes, then you would provide where. So if you have a cottage food permit, then you are able to store it at your house or whichever address is approved on your cottage food permit. Or if you have an approved commercial kitchen or facility that you are contracted with, then that would be another appropriate address to put there. If you do not have a cottage food permit, you cannot put your address there, because you're not allowed to legally store food or beverages at your house without any type of permit. And then if the answer is no, if you don't have those permits yet, I would highly recommend just getting those permits because it'll be so much easier on you. They're minimal price. It is a somewhat lengthy process of just going through it, but it'll save your butt in the long run. And it'll be a lot easier on you because the other alternative is to buy everything morning of and to prep it on site at the event. So you can't even bring that stuff home to prep it and then bring it to the event. You would have to prep it on site and provide receipts to the health inspector that you bought it that very morning. So it's a lot easier to just have those proper permits and then just go that route. And then if you are checking yes, then that next section, it says this, is the facility located in Orange County? You would say yes, and you would do your permit number. So whether the permit number that they gave you for cottage food or the permit number of the facility, the commercial kitchen that you are working with. If not, no, and you would have to attach a copy of a health permit. If it's LA based, San Bernardino based, Riverside County based, you would have to provide that health permit attached with your contract so that they could see that it still is permitted. And then we would also have you fill out on the website, on the health department's website, excuse me, they have an out of county agreement. So you also need to fill that out if you're not Orange County. And then if you select no for that, then you don't have to fill out that. You would just do the no. And then do you own the food facility? So if you're cottage food and it's your house, yes, you do. If not, then no. And you need to provide the dependent permit or shared agreement, which is also on the health department's website down near where the applications are. So you need to attach that with it as well. You need to have all of this together, because if not, your application will be denied and then you'll lose that either $66 or $127 that you just spent. And it's just going to be a lot harder on you. So just really make sure to do this as thoroughly as possible the first time so you could avoid that. And then in the terms, you'll just print and sign. Title would be owner, or if you have a business partner, co-owner, and then the date, and then you leave that last part for the office. Then you're gonna skip a page down and you'll see the operation specifications. So name of food booth, event name, again, Creative Bay Market, Angel Stadium 821, or Taps Tustin 918. It would just depend on which event it is. Your name and the name of the business again, the date of the event, the facility type, so whether you're a food booth or a food truck. Those would probably be the only two that you would select. You could just ignore the permanent structure and the food cart. And then you would select if it's an indoor event, outdoor. It's most likely an outdoor, but sometimes we do things like the Taps Barrel Room, or smaller events like Golden State Coffee Roasters, and that would be an indoor. On-site person in charge, contact. This is all about you still. So this is your phone number, your name, your phone number, and then number of employees in your booth. And then you'll select if you're packaged food only, packaged with sampling, or food preparation. So again, packaged food only is category 1A, packaged with sampling is category 1B, and then food preparation is open container, and that's category 2. So then you're gonna select what you would need for your food booth, or what you will have for your food booth. So make sure to look at the rest of the packet. I believe it says on the first page. Yes, first page will tell you what you need based off of what category you are. So make sure that that corresponds to the first page and that you're doing everything correctly with that. So canvas is just your tent. It's gonna ask you if it's on asphalt, concrete, or wood. And then it'll ask if you're gonna have screens or if you're gonna have canvas walls, which is just like that easy up material wall, or a wood wall. And then is the booth supplied by the TFF operator? Yes, that is always you. It is not the event organizer. We don't supply tents for you. So that answer will always be TFF operator. You're gonna go ahead and check that box. And then booth size will be a 10 by 10, 10 feet by 10 feet. And that's the size of your easy up. And then in this next section, list all food and beverage products that will be prepared, sold, or given away. Again, the more detail, the better. Because if you are not detailed enough here and you just keep it as vague as possible, then you more than likely will not get approved. Or if what you put on here does not line up with your cottage food permit and what you're permitted to sell, you will also not get approved, excuse me. Okay, so as detailed as possible. So if I'm a baker, I'm gonna say I'm doing decorated sugar cookies with royal icing. That's on my cottage food permit, we're good. I'm also gonna do chocolate chip cookies, I'm good. Brownies, that's all on my cottage food, we're good. Is it prepackaged, yes or no? If you're category 1A, it needs to be yes. Identify the type of preparation, so I would say where I'm doing it, so baking at home with cottage food permit, or if I was in an approved facility, then I would say at my facility, and then I already attached all the permits to the application, so I'm good to go. And then the type of preparation, whether it's just assembly, or if I'm just buying something wholesale and portioning it out, or if I'm actually cooking it myself, just be as detailed as possible. And then if you're doing all of this at a different location as opposed to your home for cottage food, then you would just write down the food facility name again, the name of the permit holder, the address and city, the facility contact phone number, and then the method of food temperature control during transportation. So if you're someone who does like meats and it needs to be temperature controlled, then you'll have to explain how you're going to keep the meats cold, or if it's already cooked, hot, just based off of what your specific business is. So I can't give you a ton of details about that because I'm more educated on the side of like coffee, aguas frescas, bakeries, sauces, salsas, things like that. But if you're more of like food truck style or like actual food, like savory food, then I would definitely do some research yourself, just so I don't give you any wrong information with that. Then on that next page, cold holding and hot holding. So if you're a bakery, doesn't apply. If you're drinks, it will for the cold, or if you're coffee, it might apply for the hot. So make sure to look through all of this. I had a lot of people bypass this when we were doing our Angels application. So again, don't assume that it doesn't apply to you right away. Go ahead and look through it and make sure that you're good to click not applicable if it is not applicable to you. Equipment and utensils. So if you are category 2, this is a very important section for you. If you're category 1A, you're probably good just to say not applicable for all of this. But if you're category 2, you are required to have a 3-compartment sink. So whether it's inside of your booth and it's your own, or Michelle and I might be able to coordinate a shared 3-compartment sink for up to 8 vendors, depending on the size of the event, how many vendors will actually need it. That might be something that we could coordinate for you guys. Just depends on the event. It's something that we would keep you posted about though. Or if it's an event that's 4 hours or less, then you're good to just bring your utensils to your approved facility afterwards to sanitize them there. So if you're cottage food only, this does not apply to you. But if you do have an approved commercial kitchen that you are contracted with and you could provide the health permits and all of the contracting, the shared agreement with that, the limited term agreement, then you are good to do your 4 hours, pack up, and then take your utensils to that facility and clean them with whichever sanitizer you specify right below that. So chlorine, iodine, any of that. And then it's just asking you what you'll be using, what kind of equipment for food preparation, whether barbecue, deep fryer, griddle, mixer, blender, or nothing or other. And then food protection, you'll just mark that off. And again, this is kind of more based off of category 2 or category 1B if you are doing samples. So again, that's where I mentioned it is a lot easier to not do samples if you're able to not do samples. And then we have the hand washing facility. This is all required inside of your booth. So again, we will not provide that. The event organizer will not provide that. So you need to select the food booth operator for the hand washing facilities provided by. And then you'll just mark off all of that accordingly. The facility requirements. Electrical supply. If you were pre-approved to use electrical, then you could go ahead and select event organizer for that. If you were not, don't assume that you will get electrical unless you run it by us first, because the majority of vendors do not, or the majority of venues do not just provide electrical. We need to run that by them, and then usually we get charged an additional cost for that because it'll obviously rack up their electricity bill a little bit. So only if you're pre-approved, go ahead and select event organizer. Otherwise, if you have a generator, you could do booth operator for that. If you have a fridge available, lighting available, again, that's stuff that you need to run by us if you need it. More than likely, it will not be provided. So have a backup plan, have a generator. If you need to bring a fridge, freezer, bring a generator for it. And then same with lighting. Usually lighting isn't required because we don't really do late night events. If we do a night event, it's like a 4 to 8 and it's right before the sun's like going down, so you're still good. The refuse removal is you, booth operator. We are not responsible for that. Toilet facilities, event organizer does provide that because obviously the venues have bathrooms. Liquid waste removal is also on you, booth operator. Michelle and I are not responsible for that. And then if you're a nonprofit, you'll fill out that last section. And then after that, you're good to go. You just need to make sure to attach those health permits, your cottage food permit, your limited term agreement, or your dependent agreement with your commercial kitchen approved facility. Basically, I know it's tedious, but it'll help you in the long run. It'll save your butt in the long run. I really hope that this video helps you guys. We want to be able to keep doing food at our markets. We love to have food. Food brings in a lot of people. So, and it helps our vendors. They don't have to pack a lunch. They don't have to go somewhere to get food. They just have food on site. So we want to be able to keep having food vendors. So any help that you guys need, please don't hesitate to email us, DM us. Again, save that phone number just for the form, just so Michelle and I can both be in the loop and we could help you out with this. And again, if you have any other questions, let us know. Otherwise, I hope you guys found this helpful. I wish you all the best, and I hope to see your applications for our future market. Thank you guys so much.